They say thoughts shape destinies with precision. Every empire begins as a single powerful idea. But if this is true, why struggle endlessly? Why do millions dream, yet never achieve greatness? Is success a gift reserved for only a few, or is it something hidden within us all? Today, I'll share a story with you, a story that will make you question everything, a story that transforms the way you see life. Stay until the end, because the secret revealed here could be the very turning point you've been waiting for. Once in a crowded railway station, life bustled constantly. Trains roared, whistles blew, passengers hurried without pause. And there, amidst the chaos, lived a beggar. Every day he survived on the coins of strangers. Every night he slept under the cold station roof. His life was a cycle of asking and waiting. One morning, something extraordinary happened to him. He saw a man stepping onto the platform. This man was unlike anyone he had seen. Tall, sharp, dressed in a tailored, expensive suit. Confidence radiated from every step he took forward. The beggar thought, "Surely this man is wealthy. If anyone could help me, it must be him." With trembling hands, he approached the businessman respectfully. "Please, sir, spare me some change," he begged. But instead of reaching for his wallet, the man paused. He looked at the beggar with piercing, steady eyes, and then he asked something no one ever had. "Do you always just take from others, my friend? Have you ever given anything to anyone yourself?" The beggar froze, completely shaken by the question. Never in his entire life had anyone asked this. He stammered, "But sir, I'm just a beggar. I live by asking. I've nothing to give." The businessman's lips curled into a knowing smile. "If you truly believe you have nothing, you're right. And if you give nothing, why expect to receive?" His voice was calm, yet sharp as a blade. "I live by one rule: exchange, not pity. If you can give me something, I'll give you something. But if you have nothing to offer, I cannot help." Without another word, the businessman stepped into his train. The doors closed, the whistle blew, and he was gone. The beggar stood frozen, heart racing, mind swirling in confusion. It wasn't rudeness. It was truth cloaked in simplicity. And those words struck him harder than hunger ever had. That night, he lay awake under the dark sky. His mind replayed the businessman's words again and again. If you want to receive, you must give first. But what could he give? He owned nothing. He was just a beggar with empty hands. Yet deep inside, something began to stir. 2 days passed with him lost in thought. On the third day, an idea lit up. By the railway tracks, wildflowers bloomed in clusters. Their colors were vibrant, their fragrance sweet and fresh. And for the first time, he saw a possibility. What if I offer flowers in return for coins? What if, instead of begging, I trade with dignity? His heart pounded with hope as the idea took root. He plucked a few flowers carefully, holding them gently. Then he waited, determined to try something new. And when a passenger dropped a coin in his hand, he smiled and offered a flower in return. The passenger paused, looking at the flower curiously. Then, to the beggar's surprise, a smile appeared. The man nodded, tucked the flower into his pocket, and walked away with a lighter step than before. The beggar's heart raced with excitement and wonder. For the first time, he had offered something. And for the first time, he felt genuine pride. He wasn't just a beggar anymore. He was giving. As the day unfolded, more people passed by. Each time someone gave him coins, he gave flowers. And something magical began to happen before his eyes. People smiled more, lingered longer, even thanked him sincerely. Some gave more money than he had ever received, and all because of a handful of simple flowers. That night, under the dim station lights, he reflected. This is not pity anymore. This is value. The businessman's words echoed again in his mind. If you want to receive, you must give first. The truth had finally revealed itself in full clarity. Over the next few days, his life transformed. He became known as the Beggar with Flowers. Passengers began to look for him deliberately. Children tugged at their parents, pointing with excitement. "Let's go to the man with the flowers." Some travelers even carried his flowers home as souvenirs, but he also noticed something very important. Whenever he had flowers to give, coins flowed. Whenever his flowers ran out, coins stopped quickly. The pattern was undeniable. Giving always came before receiving. One afternoon, as he handed a flower carefully, he suddenly spotted a familiar figure on the train. The sharp-dressed businessman who had spoken those fateful words. The beggar's heart leapt, excitement surging through his chest. Clutching his flowers, he rushed towards the man eagerly. "Sir, today I have something for you too." The businessman turned, surprised, then smiled knowingly. The beggar held out flowers, his hands trembling slightly. "In exchange for your kindness, I offer these." The businessman reached into his wallet calmly, placed a crisp note in the beggar's hand, and accepted the flowers with genuine appreciation. "You have understood the greatest principle of life," he said. "Today, you are no longer a beggar. Today, you are a businessman." Those words struck like lightning in the beggar's heart. A businessman? Could it really be true? He stood frozen, flowers clutched tightly in his hand. The train pulled away. The businessman disappeared again. But his words echoed louder than the departing whistle. That night, the beggar lay awake once more. But this time, there was no confusion inside. Instead, there was fire, a fire of realization. He thought deeply. I am not a beggar anymore. I am not receiving charity. I am trading value. People aren't giving me money out of pity. They are buying the flowers I offer proudly. His chest swelled with a strange, powerful pride. For the first time in his life, he felt worthy, not because he was given something, but because he earned it. That single thought changed everything. The man who once begged with desperation now stood at the edge of a new destiny. The next morning, he made a bold decision. He would not remain at the station forever. If he could trade flowers here, then perhaps he could build something greater outside. His eyes sparkled with a dream that night. A dream bigger than coins, bigger than flowers, a dream to transform his identity forever. The following day, he rose with determination burning. No longer did he see himself as helpless. He was no longer a man surviving on pity. He was a man capable of creating value. With trembling excitement, he left the station behind. He carried with him only one clear thought. If I can trade flowers here, I can trade them anywhere. He walked through crowded markets filled with noise and color. He watched vendors selling fruits, spices, fabrics, and toys. Each person stood proudly behind their small business. None of them begged. They all traded, and he realized he belonged among them too. With his saved coins, he purchased fresh flowers, not wild, scattered ones, but beautiful, hand-picked blossoms. Roses, marigolds, lilies, colors that drew people instantly closer. He arranged them carefully, tied them with string, and stood on the corner of a bustling street. At first, passers-by ignored him like before. Old habits die hard, and skepticism lingers. But then a woman stopped, noticing his neat bundles. She bought two, smiling as she said, "These are lovely." Her words warmed his heart like sunlight on stone. Soon, others followed, drawn by the fragrance and colors. One coin became 5, 5 became 20, and by evening he had sold every single flower. Exhausted but elated, he sat under a tree. For the first time in his life, he felt the thrill of true achievement. Not survival, not begging, but business. That night, his dreams were filled with possibilities. Tomorrow, he would buy more flowers. Next week, perhaps he could sell from a cart. One day, maybe even own a shop. The spark had been lit, and nothing could stop it. Weeks passed, and his trade steadily grew stronger. He learned to bargain with suppliers for better prices. He arranged his flowers more attractively each day. He greeted customers with a smile, offering kind words, and little by little, people began to remember him. The beggar with flowers had disappeared completely. In his place stood a man of dignity, a man who earned, created, and dreamed bigger each day. But even success carries challenges in its shadow. One rainy morning, storms swept across the marketplace. Water ruined his flowers, customers stayed at home. By evening, his coins were fewer than usual. Doubt crept back into his restless mind. What if this doesn't last? What if I fail again? But then he remembered the businessman's voice clearly. You are no longer a beggar. You are a businessman. And in that moment, he made a promise. I will not return to begging again. Even if storms come, even if profits fall, I will rise, because I am a creator. The next day, he took bold steps forward. He built a small shelter to protect his flowers. He began offering garlands for festivals and ceremonies. Soon, his stall became a place people trusted. Every challenge became a lesson, every failure a teacher. And slowly, the coins in his pocket grew heavier. But more than coins, his heart grew stronger. He was no longer the same man he once was. The beggar had vanished forever. In his place stood a flower seller, but destiny had something far greater in store. Every challenge became a lesson, every failure a teacher. And slowly, the coins in his pocket grew heavier. But more than coins, his heart grew stronger. He was no longer the same man he once was. The beggar had vanished forever. In his place stood a flower seller, but destiny had something far greater in store, because soon the businessman would return once again, and this time their meeting would change everything. Months rolled by, and his flower trade expanded. He was no longer just surviving, he was thriving. What began with wildflowers now became a full business. He hired young helpers, built carts, reached new neighborhoods. Each morning, his flowers painted the streets with color. Each evening, his earnings grew heavier with promise. But his greatest wealth was not in money. It was in dignity, purpose, and self-belief. He had changed his story with a single choice. The beggar who once stretched out empty hands now stood tall, extending flowers with confidence and pride. One sunny afternoon, fate brought a familiar sight. At the railway station where it all began, a sleek train stopped, and passengers hurried out. Among them stood the very businessman once again. Still tall, still sharp, his eyes filled with power. The flower seller froze for a moment in disbelief. Then a smile spread across his face slowly. This was the moment he had been waiting for. Not with fear this time, but with pride. He approached, carrying a bouquet in his hands. "Sir," he said warmly, "do you remember me?" The businessman looked closely, brows furrowing in thought. A flicker of recognition crossed his sharp eyes. "Yes, I've seen you before. Twice, in fact. Once as a beggar asking for pity, and once again as a man trading flowers." The flower seller chuckled, his voice steady and strong. "That's right. But today I am neither. Today I run a successful flower business. I travel to new towns, expanding further each week, and all of this began with your words." The businessman's eyes widened in astonishment. He extended his hand with genuine admiration. "You've proven yourself greater than I imagined. You didn't just change your fortune, you changed your identity." Their hands clasped firmly, no longer as stranger and beggar, but as equals, two businessmen, two creators of value. For the first time, the flower seller felt complete. He was no longer defined by his past, he was defined by the choices he made. The businessman asked curiously, "Tell me, what truly changed you?" The flower seller's voice grew soft yet powerful. "It wasn't money, sir. It wasn't luck. It was the realization that we only receive when we give. The moment I stopped seeing myself as helpless and started seeing myself as capable of giving, my entire world shifted before my eyes." The train's whistle blew, signaling another departure. Passengers rushed, bags clattered, voices filled the platform. But amidst the noise, time seemed to stand still. Two men shook hands, smiling at one another. Both understood the truth that few ever discover. Life changes only when your mindset changes first. As the businessman boarded his train once more, the flower seller stood watching with a grateful heart. No longer waiting for pity, no longer afraid. Instead, he carried the secret of transformation within him. And so, the story leaves us with this. If you believe you are small, you will remain small. If you believe you are powerless, life will prove you right. But if you choose to see your true worth, if you choose to give, to create, to build, then nothing can keep you from greatness. Because the beggar was never truly a beggar. He was always a businessman in disguise, waiting for his mind to awaken to the truth. Remember this: your life will not change by chance. It will only change when you change your mindset. And the moment you do, the world opens wide. So ask yourself right now, what will you give? Because the answer to that is your future.